For 2022, Suzuki has launched this, an updated GSX-S1000, a 4-cylinder, 1000cc naked motorcycle. And that means we automatically throw it into the super naked class, and that's a difficult place to be. It goes head-on with the likes of the BMW S1000R, the Aprilia Tuono, the KTM Super Duke, the Ducati Street Fighter V4, and of course its compatriot, the Yamaha NT10. All those bikes are magnificent. The question is, does the Suzuki compare? Well, in some ways, no. Suzuki has improved the horsepower output by 2 horsepower, bringing the tally up to 150, which is not quite enough, especially compared to the likes of the Ducati and its mighty 208 horsepower. More so, the KYB front forks and the rear shock are decent, but not top shelf in the world of suspension. Electronic C3 rider modes, traction control, ABS, and a newly added 2-way quick shifter. But the ECU controlling all of this is also not quite top of the range. The new digital dash is an improvement, but isn't exactly the full cinema experience you get from other TFT dashes seen nowadays. The other small problem is that the bracket here holding the handlebars on is silver, and that reflects on the dash, more particularly on where the time is. So every time I want to look at what the time is, I kind of have to go, That's not great. So, should we immediately write the GSX off as a failed attempt by the Japanese manufacturer? Well, not so fast. Let's take a closer look at it, starting conveniently with its looks. It adopts a set of wings, inspired by the MotoGP project that earned Jean Mir a title in 2020. Stacked headlights are dangerous territory for designers to stray into, yet that step look somehow works. In fact, the whole bike has something about it. It's not beautiful, but it is alluring, in a dangerous, don't touch kind of way, like that cliff you're tempted to step off, even though every cell in your body is telling you not to. And then we get back to the riding. It feels really comfortable. I mean, the bars are like up, they feel much sort of higher, much wider. You get this feeling of control, there's a lot of it. Yeah, I got this, it's all about leverage. Lots of leverage. I'm leveraging a lot. Also, the seat is remarkably comfortable, because I've always complained nowadays everybody seems to make seats really, really hard. Suzuki haven't listened. I'm pleased about that. Indeed, the bars are higher and wider, giving the rider better support and more control. The new frame is lifted directly from the GSX-R1000 Superbike, and the results are enlightening. Also, how did they make this thing so agile? Seriously, it feels like nothing. Like, watch here. Through these hairpins. Nothing. The motor is based on the bulletproof unit from the GSX-R1000 K5, the bike that terrorized streets and tracks from 2005 to 2008. For this model, it features new camshafts, valve springs, fuel injection, and a new airbox. While the top of the dynograph sees just 2 horsepower more, engineers weren't really looking at that tiny bit of the curve. We used to race the previous model of this, well, the F, the one with the fairing, but basically the same thing. And when you open the throttle, coming out of a corner like there, the bike used to take a run up and then kick you in the backside with a giant steel cap boot and sort of poof. It was not smooth. It was like nothing, poof, lots of power. They've completely fixed that. I'm in A mode now, which is the sort of harsh one for track. With the other one, it was almost kind of unrideable. This is much, much better. The thing is, everyone these days seems to be concentrating on mid-range, the way bikes make power, especially in the mid-range, it's where you spend most of your time. And in that regard, this bike is really good. It's just, I'm changing gears less. It's more like relaxed, easier to ride. See there, low RPM, half throttle. as much as you want, and you just accelerate. And no problem. It doesn't have the pulling power of some of those other Super Nakeds, but it is smooth. Much of this improvement in the power delivery is down to the new electronic package, including the new ride-by-wire throttle. And with the ride-by-wire, you get another family favorite addition. This quick shifter is remarkable. It's the first time they've installed one on this bike. It's like nothing. It changes so effortlessly, it's so smooth, which is interesting because previous Suzukis have not been that smooth. In fact, they've been clunky and ridiculous. And the down change also, nothing. I mean, riding all day, haven't missed a single gear. Sublime. It's so light. You just nip it. You think about turning and it just tips in. It's like riding a breeze. So here we are on a racetrack, and I'm kind of wondering if this is the wrong place. Yeah, it's good around. It's one of these bikes that's good around a track, but I want to see it out on a public road. I think this thing will be excellent. It's one of those sort of things, very good road bike, also good fun on a racetrack. That's what this is. And so, we get back to the meat of this piece. Is the GSX-S1000 up to the job? Well, in some ways pretty well. I mean, it's a good looking motorcycle. This certainly, it's really comfortable and it's extremely agile, so that's good. And apart from that, not so good. But you know what? None of that matters at all. None of it. Because this motorcycle is 225,000 Rand. Think about that. There are mid-range bikes that are more expensive than this. It's at 2/3 the price of your average Super Naked. 2/3. Is it 2/3 the bike some of those are? No. No, it's way more than that. So, is this a good bike for 225,000 Rand? Yeah. It's a very, very good bike.
Yeah, I didn't expect anything less than Don liking the new GSX-S1000. It's been a favourite of ours for some years because it's always offered a lot of bike for the money, plenty of performance, practicality, and all at a price that doesn't make you think about robbing a bank on your way to the dealership. All it really needed was for its looks to be updated and the addition of a bit of extra sophistication in its electronics, and it appears that that job has been executed very successfully indeed. It's a testament to the bike that Don compares it upwards, if you like, reeling off a list of what we often call super naked or hyper naked bikes these days. I'd argue that that class actually starts up past 160 to 165 horsepower, and of course, as he pointed out, they all cost a massive amount more than this Suzuki. The Super Nakeds is a playground that the Japanese have so far largely left to the Europeans, which I find slightly odd, albeit with a bit of an exception for Yamaha and Kawasaki. Yamaha has got its MT-10 recently refreshed and definitely back in the hunt for sales with a slightly reworked 165 horsepower motor, more electronics and an updated look. And then of course there's the slightly deranged green part of Japan that has given us the ZH2. Kawasaki's supercharged 200 horsepower naked is without doubt a hyper naked, but it does it in a different engine-centric way to the Europeans, who are all much more track-focused, where ultimately sharp handling and minimum weight are a priority. Suzuki, as Don has just shown us, has its softer, more real-world and much more reasonably priced GSX-S, while Honda has the CB1000R that it doesn't even import to South Africa, but with a Neo Cafe Racer styling and about 145 horsepower, I think it is. It's playing the game in much the same way as the Suzuki. If you're looking for a naked bike like this Suzuki to have fun on, but perhaps also to get you to work and be more of a daily rider, and you've got 225 grand or so to spend, then you might find yourself visiting a Yamaha dealership. The MT-09 SP is a wonderful bike, slightly divisive looks, though I must admit I'm one of those who likes it, but a lovely 119 horsepower triple cylinder motor and a very capable chassis, all for similar money to the Suzuki. But it is shy of just over 30 horsepower, and that's a lot, so you've really got to want a Yamaha or a triple if you take that option. Here in freezing France at the moment, the Yamaha is significantly cheaper than the Suzuki by about 40,000 rands, so that shows you what a bargain the Suzuki is in South Africa. Or rather, how overpriced is the SP version of the MT-09. A more effective way to get the Yamaha is to take the standard model, which is about 185,000 rand, I think, with the same engine but minus set of gold forks, an Erlin shock, cruise control, a softer seat and some different paint. For a similar 220,000 rand or so, there is the hugely impressive and in-your-face KTM 890 Duke R that was my favourite bike of 2020. No other bike in this category can quite match its mix of raw performance, precise handling, trick racetrack refugee components and complex electronic riding aids. The even more cheaper, by the tune of 40,000 rand Triumph Street Triple RS gets very close, but both are less comfortable and also over 30 horsepower down on the Suzuki, and with smaller capacities have a much more revier character than does the GSX-S1000. If you fancy having a Ducati badge, then there is of course the new Monster. It is a decent bike, but at around 113 horsepower it is perhaps giving away too much in the power stakes to be a viable alternative. And so you could say the same of something like BMW's F900R. In terms of approach, it is another model from Kawasaki, the Z900, that comes closest to offering a genuine alternative to the Suzuki. Even so, with 125 horsepower, it's still 25 down on the GSX-S, but it too has riding modes and a suite of much improved electronics, and it is undoubtedly also a blast to ride. I've always been a fan. And so will you be when you realise it only asks you to empty your bank account to the tune of 166,000 rand. That really is the definition of a lot of bike for the money. Having said all of that, you can see that the Suzuki exists in a kind of Goldilocks zone, because for the money it blows everything else away in terms of horsepower, and does so with improved electronics and bang up-to-date looks. It's very nearly in super naked territory, but is asking for the sort of money you expect to pay for your average middleweight naked bike these days, and that is a very nearly impossible combination to beat. Okay, time for some ads, but don't go away. Back in a moment.